Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly threat intelligence briefing. Today is the 27th of October. My name is George Glass, and joining me today from the threat intelligence team is Ryan Hicks. This week, we are covering a new ClickFix variant, the POLAREDGE botnet, the GLASSWORM supply chain attack on VSCode and OpenVSX, and we also have a ransomware roundup with some weekly statistics for you. So first up, Kroll Threat Intelligence recently became aware of a new ClickFix campaign being used to deliver information stealing malware. This campaign used a updated lure combination of a Cloudflare turnstile and fake Windows update before socially engineering the victim into pasting malicious commands into the run dialog box. The malicious payload can vary, but sandbox analysis shows that many of the lures lead to Rhadamanthus information stealer infection. The interesting thing here, the infection chain also contains additional obfuscation techniques. In the case analyzed by Kroll, the second octet of the IP address contacted in the first stage of infection was hex-coded, likely as an attempt to bypass static detection of indicators. You can see that there. The hexadecimal string will be interpreted by the victim's machine as a number. In this case, it's 98, and the complete IP address will be used to download the rtdx.dat script using mshta.exe. The PowerShell script reaches out to the obfuscated domain, which checks user agent strings for PowerShell, again, probably to hinder analysis and avoid the domain being flagged by automated scanning. If the connection is not made by PowerShell, it simply redirects to Google, but a connection with the PowerShell user agent leads to the download of malware. As with all these sort of ClickFix style attacks, we remain highly confident in our ability to detect and respond to this threat. But our recommendations are, again, to train users about ClickFix style attacks, and especially this new social engineering method, and ensure that endpoint detection response tools are enabled on all of those endpoints to detect it. You may also consider blocking via GPO the run dialog box. Next up, POLAREDGE. Sekoia has released a detailed technical analysis of the POLAREDGE botnet, which initially reported on earlier this year. The botnet is spread by exploiting vulnerabilities, most notably that CVE 2023-20118 in Cisco routers. However, other samples from the same family have been seen exploiting routers from other vendors such as Asus, QNAP, and Synology. Sekoia observed vulnerabilities being exploited to download a shell script named Q, which when run downloads and executes POLAREDGE in ELF 64-bit executable format. When executed, the malware appears to attempt to mitigate the risks of the vulnerability used to obtain access, possibly to limit other actors from gaining access, essentially shuts the door behind it. It does this via renaming files such as wget or curl and deleting certain CGI scripts. The malware uses a custom binary protocol wrapped in TLS that allows for download and execution of further payloads. The cert certificate observed by Sekoia uses PolarSSL for the organization component. In addition to that, the malware also gathers information about the system it's running on, including the IP address, MAC address, the process ID of the malware, and the device brand. And for anti-analysis, the malware uses XOR and simple substitution ciphers to obfuscate itself and tries to look like a legitimate process by naming itself randomly. The malware can also be run in a one-off mode to download a file from a remote server. And with that, I will hand over to Ryan to take us through these other bulletins. Over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, George. So first up, a new code repository supply chain attack has been reported by Core Security that is similar to Shai-Hulud, which was another recent self-replicating worm that stole credentials and exfiltrated data. This new campaign is dubbed GLASSWORM. It doesn't appear to be quite as widespread in terms of volume of repositories targeted, nor kind of as large user base wise for those repositories. But there are some interesting differences in capabilities that I'll mention it in it shortly. And GLASSWORM has been observed targeting VSCode extensions on the OpenVSX marketplace, whereas before with Shai-Hulud it was against npm. So certainly seeing multiple different code repositories being targeted kind of over time. So the campaign, first sort of technique really to highlight really is use of the Solana blockchain. So there's a wallet address hard coded in the malware for the primary sort of functionality of primary command and control. Malware queries the wallet, the Solana wallet. It inspects some of the latest transaction information for that particular wallet. Inside there are base64 encoded instructions, and one of those is shown at the bottom image there. You see the kind of base64 encoded string, which is where GLASSWORM will look for its next instructions. And decoding this string reveals a URL that the malware will then reach out to. At the time, the latest transaction, which is the one you see, led to a URL hosting a single base64 string. And when decoded, that read process exit 0, so suggesting it's terminating the process rather than kind of feeding any instructions. Potentially after public reporting came out, it appears that kind of has popped up. However, within the initial report for this campaign, they noted that the transactions led to a large base64 encoded string that contained the kind of main information stealer payload, which looked to gather tokens, credentials, and other sort of cryptocurrency collections. So following that, which is kind of the latest transaction, is where this kind of process exit has spawned from. So yeah, potentially from this kind of public reporting. An additional interesting feature compared to previous sort of supply chain is use of Google Calendar as an alternate C2. And similar to the Solana transactions, the malware had a hard-coded Google Calendar invite URL that when browsed to, it showed, again, a base64 encoded string that decoded to another payload hosted on the same IP address as previously seen in the Solana technique. So importantly for the threat actor really is the ability here to quickly change the commands and payloads that are issued to the malware at any time, so where the malware doesn't have to be changed. Quite important really for the threat actor in these sort of supply chain attacks where the malware could just spread anywhere. So being able to kind of flip the capabilities on the fly is quite key, and a new sort of variation as we didn't see that in Shai-Hulud. And recommendations wise, so developers ensuring to check whether they've installed any known compromised OpenVSX extensions. A link to the full list that were affected can be found in our report. Any OpenVSX developers ensuring to check for any unknown updates to maintained packages. And if any sort of signs of compromise are seen, re-rolling secrets and credentials on the kind of affected device, as that's the kind of main functionality of this particular malware, is the kind of credential stealing side. And next up, looking at the ransomware post statistics for this period, so kind of last week and the previous week, looking at the table for the actors with the biggest change in post count, notably KTA 286 or Chillin continues to remain the most active ransomware actor in the week, although there was a large reduction in the posts that they had since last week. So they kind of went from 93 down to 40. So they were the biggest change, but still remained the most active. KTA 276 or Dragon Force returned to a quiet week that with 0 posts in that period after the influx of recruiting posts the previous week. So there was really just a kind of a small influx from them for the recruiting side. Sector-wise, healthcare, manufacturing, and technology sectors continue to remain the top of the target sectors across all ransomware victims. And the US remains the most targeted country across all posts. And that's all for me, George.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And that's all we have time for this week. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please remember to contact us at cti@kroll.com. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.